This happened to me in the summer of 2015. I was dating a guy who lived in the city and I was living at home at the time in the suburbs. Neither of us had a car, and since I lived at home with my bedroom right next to my grandma's, I always went to him. I would take the subway to his place every week and stay for a couple of days that I had off from work. To get to his apartment required taking 2 trains. One day, I was headed to see him. It was super hot out and I was wearing a skirt with straps, a crop top, and knee-high socks. Hey, I wanted to look cute. I guess I feel that this is important as I probably stood out in this outfit. And unfortunately, I probably should have been more careful about what I was wearing, which sucks. Anyway, I'm on the first train and after a few stops I notice a man get on. I kind of could not notice him as he chose to stand right in front of where I was sitting and stare at me, rather than take an empty seat. It made me feel weird. The man in general just gave off a creepy vibe. He was probably in his 40s, looked unkempt but otherwise kinda just a basic looking white dude, whose face I can't even picture now. So I get off at the last stop and head through the station to where I need to catch the second train. But I noticed that guy is following me, which at first I figured wasn't a very big deal. He could have just been going to the same place. So, to get to the platform, I needed to have to go up some stairs and to realize that he was right behind me again. I decided to turn around and go to a different platform, which happened to be packed with people, thinking that if he follows me then, this is bad but maybe I can lose him in the crowd. He follows me and I try to duck out of view before going back to the actual platform I needed to be waiting on. I get there and for a few minutes I feel better, until I see him again. He must have known that I would be here after I had gone up there and then turned around. Plus, it was the only other platform most likely he saw me the whole time. There weren't too many people waiting compared to the other side, but a few trains came that were so full, I didn't bother to try and get on and neither did he. The whole time I'm texting my boyfriend who was not taking me seriously at all. I ask him at least if he can meet me at the station when I get to the stop by his apartment. It was only a 5-minute walk, and he was being reluctant, but he finally agreed. At this point though, I was still waiting for a train. One comes that's very full, but I'm getting restless and I want to get to a safe place, so I squeeze on and so does the man right next to me with his arm over me. I decide that even with all these people around, I'm not safe. So right before the doors close, I hop out, and the train leaves with the guy on it staring at me as it pulled away. I waited for a few more trains to come and go, worried the guy would be waiting for me at the next stop or something. I'd got a train finally, paying attention to everyone who got on at each stop. The guy never did, and I made it to my stop and greeted my boyfriend, who seemed put out by having to walk over. He's an ex-boyfriend and generally not the best person. I'm really proud of myself for getting off that train at the last second. I don't know how much danger I was in, but I know that man was following me, and definitely wasn't for any wholesome reason. And despite being in public, I feel like if he had tried anything, no one would have done anything, and I'm a very small and I'm not very strong. Luckily, I never saw the guy again, and that day will only be a reminder of what could have happened. Two years ago, I was the last person left in my college apartment before the winter holidays. I had a final the next morning, a short shift at work, and then I was headed home. Because of this, I was awake at around 3 in the morning watching TV and studying. Out of nowhere, I hear this pounding on the front door. This is very, very odd. I'm the only one left out of 4 girls in the apartment. Most of the complex is gone because they had finished finals early, and I live on the top 3rd floor of the building closest to the main office. I sneak up to answer the door, wondering if it's one of my roommates. My room is the closest to the front door, so It's all of 3 steps to peek through the peephole in the door. There are about 5 people outside, 4 guys and 1 girl. All of the men were shirtless and some of them were wearing shorts. It was about 20 degrees outside and snowing. Most of them were hanging back on the walkway, but the man who was knocking on the door was bent over it, one arm up against the door and leaving his other hand free to just pound on it. I heard them talking, but I couldn't make out any words. For some reason, the girl unnerved me the most. Let's recap. 3 in the morning, mostly empty apartment complex, 5 people shirtless, banging repeatedly on my door. All while it's snowing. Needless to say, I just pretended I wasn't even there, even though I stood watching them through the peephole. I think I ran off to mute my TV just in case. They stayed there for about 5 minutes while the one guy just knocked away, but they finally left and headed farther down the walkway. I still have no idea what they were on about, and I didn't sleep very well that night. I was a 17-year-old student in France when all of this happened. I was living in an apartment next to my college's campus with 2 roommates. Let's call them Alex and Polly. I was coming back from my class at around 5:30 p.m. when I saw a guy waiting in front of our building. It was the kind of old building where you can enter without ringing. It was a big residence, so I just walked by him without really caring about why he was there. 15 minutes later, the same guy came up to my apartment. He pretended that he was one of Alex's friends, and that he was waiting for him, but Alex was late. He also told me the exact place where Alex was doing an internship at the time and even told me about his schedule for the day. With all the information that he gave me, I was confident that they knew each other, so I let him in. For the record, Alex's father used to work for a big company at the time, so even by looking it up on the internet, it was impossible to find anything about him. As a good host, I offered him something to drink and started talking with him while waiting for Alex. The conversation quickly turned to darker when he started to tell me about his past and about the amount of weapons he was keeping at his home in France. Around here, it really is unusual to have a gun at home, except if you are a hunter or in a profession that requires one. It was getting late, and as the conversation got darker, I started to feel uncomfortable with him, so I decided to send a text to Alex just to let him know that his friend was here, and that I wasn't really feeling comfortable with him. Alex answered me a few minutes later asking me to send a picture of his friend, just to see who was here. So I took my phone out and discreetly took a picture of the person in front of me. After receiving it, Alex just told me that he was on his way home. When Alex arrived, I was relieved. He came into the living room and said hello to his friend, but then he just sat down and an awkward silence came along with it. After about a minute, I received a text from Alex telling me, "I don't know this guy." At that moment, I thought he was joking around, but after seeing his face, I knew that he was serious. So here we are. 2 young college students stuck with a stranger that apparently knows a lot about Alex without even meeting him. We were both really young at the time and we didn't really react in a good way. Every human being in this kind of situation would have called the police or asked him to leave, but we were really lost and didn't know about it. And we were scared of his reaction if we would have asked him to leave, so we thought, hey, let's eat early so he'll feel uncomfortable about not being invited for dinner and he'll leave. But as we were dining in the kitchen, he just stayed in the living room and started to watch TV without even asking us. At the same time, our third roommate Polly just came home from work. She entered the apartment and said hi to the guy in the living room before joining us in the kitchen. She then asked who he was and wasn't really happy when we told her we didn't have any idea of who he was or how to make him leave. We explained to her our dumb strategy of just living our life until he felt uncomfortable and then he would leave. And she started to act with us and just tell us about her day. At that moment, Polly was going through a rough period and was telling us about it. Not a really fun story to tell or listen to. But while she was telling us about her misery, the guy in the living room joined us in the kitchen and started laughing about Polly's story before going back to watch TV. It was really creepy. At this moment, Alex had enough and asked us to leave the apartment while he was going to deal with the guy. And this is what happened when we left. Alex got back to the living room and started to act like he was about to go to bed. Another dumb strategy, yes I know. His room was opening on the living room, so he had told the guy that he was about to go to bed and left the door half opened while starting to remove his jewelry. He noticed that the guy on the couch wasn't moving, or caring about the fact that there was no one left in the apartment except Alex that was in his room. Alex went up to him and told him that maybe it was time for him to leave as he was his friend and that he was going to sleep, but the guy replied to him, "I'm waiting for the girls." Alex got mad and finally put him out of the apartment. At the same time, Polly and I were going back in the building and met the guy on the stairs. He wished us a good night with a creepy smile and he left. Going back to the apartment, Alex told us what happened and we started to ask ourselves, who was that guy? How did he know Alex's name and surname? How did he know where he was and his working schedule? How did he find our address? We spent a part of the night trying to find answers without any success. We learned from our mistakes and decided to never open the door again to someone that we didn't know. 2 weeks later, Polly was chilling in her room and she was home alone. Her window was giving a view on the parking lot, and as she was looking through it, she saw a red car parking. The guy was back. Polly got the very good idea to note his license plate and to verify that the door was locked. The guy came up to the apartment and told Polly the exact same thing that he had told me the first time he came. Polly got mad and told him that if he was still there in 5 minutes, that she would call the police. It was the last time that he came. A few weeks later, Alex came back home after work telling us that he finally remembered where he already had met the guy. So here's the story. Alex used to go to a bar where you were able to play video games while drinking. Apparently the guy was in the same bar at the machine next to him and tried to talk to Alex, but he was too focused on his game and only took the time to tell him a quick hello. Well, that guy probably followed Alex around for a week or two after that day. We moved out of the apartment a few months after this story. Luckily, I haven't seen the guy since then. I want to start off by saying that I'm a stay-at-home mom. A very stay-at-home loner mom, and with my family so far away, it didn't feel right to have them worry. I just wanted to tell my story, whether someone reads it or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a writer by any means, and this was just my thoughts and a recap of my night. Tonight, I tucked my oldest kid into bed and on my way out to the new nightly ritual of feeding my neighbor's cat, my husband made a joke about wanting corn dogs from 7-Eleven. I don't get out much and don't mind, so I said we needed milk anyways and we went on our way. The neighbors were uneventful, except for one cat hooked her nail into my middle finger when I was giving her treats. Because of this, I left earlier than usual and headed straight to the store. It was just after 9 p.m. and I pulled up to the 7-Eleven, parking alongside the side of the building, unobstructed windows spanning the entire length of the building, and it's well lit. I immediately noticed a gentleman in blue standing up on the sidewalk. I pay no mind but start gathering my things. My finger still really hurts though. I'm taking my time and cursing that gorgeous cat when I hear a man's voice mumble something. My window was partially open, but my windshield is already fogging up, and when I look up to see that he's walking towards my passenger side, he starts trying to open the door, but thank God my kids have broke that door handle and it won't open. I immediately step out of my car, and with me standing in my open door, looking out across the windshield, I say, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And he starts saying over and over, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" I say again, I don't know you. I'm not letting you in my car. He realizes that he can't get in and people are watching, so he starts to walk away from my car and I run inside. I'm a little shaken up, but I try to sum it up to mistaken identity. We live in a small town and our cabs are just random cars. I'm walking around and trying to make sure that he isn't near my car, and at one point, I see him looking like he's walking away. I call my husband and tell him a little bit of what happened, just to hear him say it's probably nothing. Corn dogs in hand, I walk out and head towards my car. Visions of this guy in my backseat flashing through my head. I see him walking away from my car, but now he has a backpack. Something flashes on the side of the pack and it hits me. I didn't lock my door when I ran inside. This POS has my 5-year-old son's backpack. I thought that he might bolt, but he started walking back towards me instead. I said again, "That's my son's backpack," and he again starts saying, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" I yell louder, "That's my son's backpack, give me it back." For a millisecond, I even considered the fact that this might not be my son's backpack and I panic. But I'm convinced the moment that I see the bus pass. This man is still going on about yellow cab and I looked at him furious. Mama Bear was upset. I take an extra long look at what he was wearing. Hospital blue pajama pants and a deep but vibrant blue hoodie, with a WOT logo and the O at some hemisphere lines of something in it. All of this happens in a few seconds and I just remember looking at him, upset, and telling him that he's asked for stealing a little kid's backpack and that he should get out of here. Maybe it's because I live in Canada, or maybe it was because I didn't leave the area where I could be seen, but he started walking away. I went inside immediately and told the clerks, but I don't think any of us knew what to do. For a second, I wasn't going to call the cops. It's just a backpack. But I just couldn't help but think about him trying to get into my car with me in it, so I did call the police. I started telling them what was happening and then I saw the guy again. I followed him while I was on the phone and I parked way ahead of him. And time passed quickly when you're on the phone with the cops and the guy passed by my car. He turns back and sees that it's me and turns around. I haven't turned off my car, so I panic, but I shift into drive and start driving away. The man wasn't scared. He was actually walking back to my car. As I'm driving away, I tell the officer, "What the F I was thinking, this is so dangerous. I gave you his description and his general location, I'm going home." We finished the conversation on the way and I gave them my info and the guys. I don't know why I followed him. I follow a lot of true crime and I guess I just could not report a man trying to get into my car. I told the police the same. I got off the phone and I went inside. My husband is good at pointing out people's hardships, and it is clear this man had mental health issues, and I suppose some addiction issues. He was rather thin with large scabs on his face. He kind of dumbed down how I feel about it, and I think that's why I wanted to write this. What happened, it scared me, and I don't know why I did what I did. All of it seems pretty stupid. I approached the guy and I drove after him. God, I'm ridiculously slow sometimes. I did get the backpack back, but it was stupid. I received a phone call 5 minutes before I started writing this and the police had got him. He's got to the station for the night because he is extremely intoxicated. The officer's words. We pulled up with our lights on and he asked if we were a yellow cab. A part of me feels like maybe he was just a drunk or something, but a part of me thinks this guy was using that as an excuse to why he would be thinking to get into my car. I definitely had an adrenaline rush and now I'm just kind of tired. Thanks for reading. It was a weird night.